So the first speaker this afternoon, he is a man who found that passion in after school, and now he is committing to helping other young people find their passions in after school programs. Tennis great Andy Roddick became a Grand Slam singles champion at the 2003 U.S. Open. He is the most recent North American male player to win a Grand Slam series event. He was the most recent to reach the top ranking and the most recent to claim the year-end world #1. And now not only is he a tennis champion, he's a huge after-school champion. I know, right? He's awesome. And he is a generous champion. So here's some breaking news. He has 4 special giveaways for us this evening. Autographed photos, an autographed tennis bat. I mean, seriously, you show up on your tennis court with an autographed, Andy Roddick tennis bag, win, default, you're gonna win, right? So your opponents are gonna leave the court.
Thank you. First of all, I'm extremely humbled to be here today. I've been lucky enough to speak in some pretty inspiring rooms. Knowing and having seen firsthand what a difference quality after-school programs make in kids' lives, and it really is truly an amazing thing. So for 1 second, I'm going to have you all stand up, just for 1 second. Sorry, because I know you just sat down. I want you to turn to the table next to you, and I want you to applaud the table next to you. All right, now sit down. I just want to share a couple of stories with how we got to where we are at the Andy Roddick Foundation. And I'm up here speaking, and I get a lot of credit for where we're at, and I'm a small part of what we've done. To give a quick once-over, I know you saw the video, but we've built our program into a program that serves 400 kids a day in after-school programs, 1,500 kids daily with affiliate partners in the Austin, Texas area, and still building. Why we're here and why I've become so passionate about after-school opportunities is by consequence of 2 conversations that I had with 2 very close friends of mine. One was the first CEO that we had when we decided to take over control of our own programs, and the second is actually our current CEO, Richard Togley. I appreciate honesty and almost too direct sometimes, and thankfully I have some friends who are the same way. When I think the conversation was about 2010, 2011, and I still thought I had, as athletes, you think you're going to play forever and you think you're going to be good forever. Time is undefeated, unless you're Federer. You laughed a little too hard at that one. That's all right. So we used to be kind of a typical athlete nonprofit, right? We would have great events. We had great partners. Not to undermine what they were doing, what they are doing. But my good friend Jeff Lau sat down, and his resume on paper is obnoxious with what he's accomplished. I couldn't be prouder of what he's become. But he sat down and he goes, "Well, what's going on with the foundation?" And I said, "Oh, it's great. We have some great events, and we give out some money, and it's fantastic." And he goes, "All right." And I was, I wanted something more from him for that. I was like, "Oh, it's great." I said, "It's great." And he goes, "All right." I said, "What's on your mind?" He goes, "Well, you're playing a relevancy game. You're not reporting to impact and what you could be doing." He goes, "Listen, I don't know how much longer you're going to play tennis. I thought I was going to play for 5 more years. I ended up playing for 1 more year. Had it not been for the conversation I'm about to tell you about, I'm not sure where we would be." But he said, "You're playing a relevancy game. You need to take ownership. You need to find a route that you're passionate about, that you believe in, and you need to start taking ownership over your programs. Otherwise, your foundation's going to be gone like a lot of the athlete nonprofits that we see kind of go by the wayside." And so I left the conversation kind of pissed, because I knew he was right. So we went up and we kind of laid the groundwork, met some great people that were far smarter in this space than we were. The best piece of advice that I ever received in my life was from my father. He said, surround yourself with smart people and ask a lot of questions. So I've been lucky to be around some smart people. So Jeff is off working with this really cool tech company called Google. And so Richard Togley came into our lives, and he was brought to the task of, listen, we know what we want to do. My mentor was Andre Agassi. He was unbelievable in a nonprofit space in education. It happened to be in a charter school, and he's completely revitalized an entire side of Las Vegas. He's about as successful and as committed as an athlete has been. And it was great. And so Richard said, okay, well, listen, we know what our focus has to be. It's going to be kids in education. So like everyone else, or the majority of people, unfortunately, what does that mean? It's like, Andre did a charter school. Okay, so I'm going to do a charter school because I even started going bald just because I liked Andre that much. And so Richard said, okay, well, let me look into it. So he goes and he loves his research. He really likes his research. He's a big fan of research. Real big fan of research. So he comes back and he lays out what the charter school landscape looks like, and it's being serviced in the Central Texas area. It's never as much as you want, but there are some really good charter schools doing a really good job. And then he showed me a graphic of, I'm not sure how many of you know Austin, but Westlake is a very affluent part of town. It's a great part of town. There were 360 quality after-school programs available in Westlake and Austin at that time, which is an amazing number. And then we went to the east side of Austin, there were 2. That's right. It didn't seem fair, so we decided that from that moment we would surrender to the word impact, and wherever that took us, and it happened to be in the after-school space. I was naive about the importance of this space. I don't know that I fully understood the importance of this space, but thankfully Richard did, and he left that meeting saying, hey, here are the facts, it's your call, all the while knowing that he had made his point, and that's the route we were going. And so to kind of be able to pull back and see where we're at now and seeing the impact, and the part that doesn't get talked about enough, and what all of you are doing, is the impact on children is amazing. The impact on families is something that doesn't get talked about enough. Giving someone an extra 4 hours a day to work and not worry that their kids are out doing something they shouldn't be doing, and that sense of comfort. We now have an 18-month-old son, and when he was born, they're like, do you look at the children differently? I go, not really. I look at the families differently. If my son was somewhere that I didn't know or trust or like after school, and I had a choice to make between supporting and being there, it's a problem that I would have never wanted. So that's something that I'm sure many of you have children, but you should have a lot of pride in yourselves for what you are doing, what you're standing for, and also how you're affecting families, which just has a trickle-down effect into every single part inside of their walls, of their family unit, and out in the world. And I know there are challenges in this space, and especially with some news that's come recently, which just sucks. It does just suck, but I don't ever want someone to feel defeated. I think if you look around this room and see the people sitting next to you, they know what you're going through, they understand what you're doing. I can't believe the support system since we started our programs years ago. I can't believe how many people actually get it, so don't ever feel like you're not being heard. Really commit to the relationships around you. And again, I am just completely humbled to be in this room. I know we're doing a Q&A, and you can ask us some questions. I might fire back because the brain power in this room is amazing for me to be in, and I know I'm up here. I'm not telling you anything new, but it truly is an honor to be here with you all. My day started in LAX traveling with a baby who was going nuts. And then we sat on a tarmac for an hour and a half. And so to be here in this room now is a step up. I love my baby. I love my baby. And I'll always love my baby. But right then, I didn't like him as much as I normally do. But I thank you all for your time, and congratulations for what you're doing. I appreciate you guys so much. Thank you.
Andy, along with giving out great gifts, I hope you guys are tweeting and posting. He's agreed to take a couple of questions from the audience. So we've got some mics positioned, so you guys want to just jump up and start asking questions? Ooh, I can see you all. Don't be shy. No, after school people aren't shy. Okay, you want to go to a mic? I can probably hear you, but yeah.
So we know what inspired you for tennis, and your conversation with your friend inspired you to redirect and make your foundation more operational. How often do you get to see and interact with some of the young people?
The answer to that is not as much as I would like. There are, as many of you know, challenges in fundraising and creating awareness, and I would love to just be with our kids every single day. That's the fun part. That's the part where you commit to being on the road and trying to raise money and create awareness. I get to see them a lot, and it's not enough.
Thank you, and I have a gift for you from Afterschool folks.
All right, well, bring it on. Great, thank you. Thank you very much.
Hello, I was going to ask, what have you done in your career that has motivated you to work with the youth?
I have to give a lot of credit to, it sounds loud all of a sudden. I have to give a lot of credit to the sport that I ended up playing at a public tennis center, Caswell Tennis Center, right off the UT campus. I went out for tennis lessons, and it was a way to, hit balls and, go nuts and burn off some energy and hopefully sleep for my parents. I didn't know the culture of tennis, and luckily we've had great leadership in that. Also as a trickle-down effect from Billie Jean with what she's done with women's equality to what Andre's done to our greatest player we've ever had, Roger Federer, being the global ambassador for UNICEF. I've gotten to be around these people. They've become friends. Andre was a great mentor. I asked him one time, this was a big moment, and we've talked about the foundation post focus on out of school time. But the thing that we started the foundation when I was 17 years old, and it was a pass-through, but it was still a great thing. I asked, there was 30 minutes left on a flight, and I was always scared to talk to Andre, but he used me as a practice partner a lot. And so we had about 30 minutes left on a flight one time, and he goes, okay, kid, you have 30 minutes, every question you want to ask. And this is someone who I watched and idolized for my entire childhood. I made all the fashion mistakes right there with him. And so I started firing. I asked, what's it like, the first time you got to number one, what's it like to win a Grand Slam? What's it like to kiss Brooke Shields? A bunch of questions that I thought were important. I then, and since his book has come out, I'm not sure how many of you have read it, but not knowing that this was a loaded question at the time, I asked him what his biggest regret was. And he said, I didn't start my foundation early enough. And this is coming from someone who had a lot of success in the space. So that speaks to the tennis world as a whole. I think we've had some incredible leaders, and I was lucky to get sucked up into that vacuum.
Well, thank you. Thank you for being a motivation for all of us.
Thank you. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Hi, so I'm going to make you think back to your young self. So when you were 6, 7, 8, what would you like to have had in an after-school program that would have motivated you and connected with you?
That's a great question. It requires a bit of objectivity that I'm not sure that I have. I was one of the lucky ones that had an enthusiastic person named Steve Jones who taught tennis at Caswell Tennis Center, and he would ride his bike to the courts, and every single day he brought energy and positive energy. And I still remember him, and he's had his ups, he's had his downs, but for those kids that showed up, I think there were 30 or 40 of us every day that would come and hit tennis balls. And God, I promise you, we were amongst the most annoying kids that you've ever seen.
I bet we could match that or better it.
I'm pretty annoying. But the thing that I remember that sticks out the most is it wasn't someone going through the motions, you know, and I don't think you can fake passion for something. And if you do for a little while, I think it has an expiration date. So the thing that I remember most, I was lucky I had a great program to go to. But I remember his passion, his positivity, the way he jumped. You know, he was the first one to greet us when we came in, and he was the last one to give us a high five on the way out. And that's what I remember, and that's what made me want to keep going.
Thanks, that's a great answer.
All right.
One more, and we'll take this one right here.
So there's some people that say following your passion is not the best advice. For example, if you were bad at tennis but were passionate about it, it may
Sure.
not be the best, idea to try to be a professional tennis player. What's your perspective on just following your passion?
I think it requires knowing who you're talking to a little bit. But I think you have to be passionate about what you do, especially in a space like this that probably doesn't get appreciated as much as it should. A lot of people are passionate about stuff because it leads to other stuff that they're passionate about.
Right.
I think in a space like this, it is important to kind of your default mode on your bad day. You should be able to have the passion to get through that. I certainly understand your question. I was never going to be a center in the NFL. But I think if it's not your passion, when I was 7, I loved baseball too. I didn't end up being a baseball player. I don't know that we're only required to have one passion in life, but I think you need to choose one of those, and I think you need to be passionate about what you do, even if it's not what you wanted to do when you were 5 years old.
Awesome. Thanks.
Hey, Andy, thanks for being here. One question I have, your story was really interesting to me about the foundation in the direction it was going, and you had a champion of after school come to you and talk to you. So as someone who would be writing a grant to your foundation, I'm really interested to know, that's what we do here. I'm really interested to know what we can do as people who are passionate about after school to instill and connect with people who can be champions on our behalf to foundation folks. Like, do you have any thoughts on that for us?
As far as just getting the message out, and
Yeah.
getting it
What can we
across?
do to advocate and be connectors to champions?
So the thing that I found when trying to explain, and we did have a problem, 2 years in, it's like after school, how are we, people viewed us as a babysitting service.
Yeah.
It's like that's not what we're doing. We're adding value. We're not reteaching what's done in the school year. It's a different type of education that we provide. It's more non-cognitive learning. But I found myself during the first 2 years needing too much time from people. So if I'm in a room like this and we're at an event, I needed too much time to actually explain what we do and why it was important. Making it instantly relatable was a huge thing, and we had a complete coaching session on that. So when we do talk about, they think about the kids, I think talking about families is important, as opposed to just, we have great kids, they're amazing, we help them, they're going to be great. They might have a mother who can still be great if given the opportunity. So I think that makes the connectivity of those conversations is important, and I think it kind of sets our causes apart from some of the other things that might take a piece of people's brains.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.